Hello, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Beacon of Light podcast tonight. Tonight, we have an amazing guest, and her name is Ashmeeta, and we can't wait to really discuss with her a big and heavy topic, but there's always hope in the end because this show is all about your light and hope. So before we start talking to her, let's jump into this. I'm April Tribe Juke. Welcome to the Beacon of Light podcast. I believe we are all made with light, and light is hope. This podcast brings authors who write stories of hope to all of you. Your journey to be inspired and amplified by these stories starts now. And we are back. Welcome, everyone. We are so happy that you are here live, and we are excited to be able to speak tonight to Miss Ashmeeta. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, my name is Ashmeeta. I am a grief support advocate, and I really believe in speaking about grief, especially since I've been through it like 3 times now, with my mom passing away about 15 years ago, then my husband 3 years ago, and my dad a year ago. So each time it has been really an interesting experience. But the very first time that I experienced grief and death was definitely an eye opener and absolutely challenging. But I've learned as I kind of moved along. So I'm here to encourage, empower, and help people to embrace and maybe offer some tips that maybe could help to just make the journey a bit more manageable and easy to work with.
That is really, really supportive and helpful. And we were talking before we popped in here that her grief journey is going to be a part of all of our lives, at least at one time. And sometimes it's closer. Sometimes maybe right now, no one has passed who is in your family or friends who are near you. And you think, oh, this might not be a topic for me to understand. But what would happen next week or in a few years? So you just never know. We just only know that death is a part of our life. So I'm very excited to have Ashmeeta here because to really examine and share about what grief is, she's also written a book, and it is called What's Your Story? So share a little bit about your book, Ashmeeta, and help us to understand how we can, go through a journey like this and make it out on the other side.
Okay, so it's a funny story how I started writing this book in the first place. I was kind of meditating one day, and which is something I started practicing regularly when my husband was ill with pancreatic cancer. That was something that I kind of, took up to do every single morning. It was my me time, something that helped me to ground myself, just to make sense of everything that was going on around with the 3 kids and with him dealing with the pancreatic cancer and all of that kind of stuff. And one day, as I said, I was meditating, and this was after he passed away. And I recalled a conversation that he and I had had a long time ago. And he had said to me that, you have so much to say. Why don't you write a book? And I never even considered that until the moment when that thought came back into my mind. I was like, oh, interesting. And then I was talking to my daughter, and she's like, yeah, Mom, why don't you write a book? So I kind of entertained that idea, and here we are, written a book.
Amazing. There's just so many things that encourage us to do our writing. And so tell us a little bit about this book and what we can expect as readers, what could we learn from it, and kind of share a little bit about that.
Sure. So the title of my book is called What's Your Story? And the reason I gave it that title is because there was something that I learned with my husband and I as we were, married for 23 years. And as we moved through the years, you're not always agreeing on everything. It's not that ideal fairy tale kind of thing, right? So we discovered a way to be able to work with each other and to work with situations that we find ourselves in that don't really maybe gel that well with you, but you still need to find a way to work with it and make it sort of so that it's comfortable for everyone. And that is where what's your story? It was kind of like a mantra that I specifically would ask myself whenever I found myself in a tricky situation where my emotions were saying one thing and the actions that were going on around me was something totally different. So it was a way for me to bring myself back into a reality where I would be okay. So, what is really going on here? What is your story? What story are you making out? What story am I personally making out of the situation that is taking place right now and the feelings that I am feeling at this very moment with the situation? So, my reaction. And it took me a fair number of years to practice this. And I noticed over time that things became easier. Those difficult situations that I used to find myself in and that used to bother me a lot with people. I mean, everybody doesn't always agree all the time. Um, they started getting easier. And I mean, the other person was still the same person, still doing the same things that was annoying me, but I changed over time just by practicing this one little thing that I would just become aware of. What's your story? What are you, what story are you going to allow to get created out of this situation? So that's a long-winded, but yeah, that's kind of like where what's your story kind of came about. And in my book, I've tried to lay out my journey in a sense of what loss means, to what it meant to me, and how I kind of worked through it every time. I've had various different types of loss. I've had two miscarriages. I've had, when I was really young, like in my 20s, I've had a marriage that kind of got annulled. I still don't know why. Don't have any answers to that. And then the death of three of the most important people in my life. So each, just having to navigate all of that, understand all of that, work through all of that, it it definitely took a lot of me thinking out of the box and just pushing myself out of my comfort zone. And that is what I kind of put in the book. Things like things that I've discovered, like meditation, breathing exercises, the way the brain kind of works, and your thoughts, positive thoughts, affirmations, um, gratitude, appreciation, letting go. That was like, letting go is such an important aspect of being able to move forward. I was
Agreed.
sorry, I was under the impression that letting go was forgetting what that somebody did something wrong to me, until one day I read something that letting go is not only about the other person, it is about me and how I can let go of the pain that I experienced with whatever took place. That doesn't mean I forgive the person, or not forgive, but it doesn't mean that I accept what the person's done to me or anything of the sort, but just releasing that hold that experience has on me. It's so liberating. It really is liberating. So yeah.
I agree with that. That letting go, it's really interesting how we'll just hold on like a bulldog. We'll just hold on to something and just keep perseverating over it. This is the sign for perseveration. You just can't quite, and it just cycles back and forth again and again. And it takes so much energy. It takes all of your focus off of what's in the in the moment, right? The things that are happening currently right now, because we're hyper focused here, whether we feel it's for good or for negative or revenge or whatever. that letting go can bring up a myriad of emotions which feel like you had mentioned before, forgetting. And sometimes that letting go of the loss, if we fear, well, then I will forget them because they're no longer right here, that can be a fear. Or if we let go of maybe the challenging or abusive situations that happened in our life, that's very freeing, and there isn't a fear there, but there might be a little bit because that's maybe all we know what to do, or
Mhm.
we identify with that. So it is really interesting. I'm going to pop over here. We have a lot of great comments coming up tonight. And so I thought I would put some of these up here on the screen. And so bear with me here. Is the first one. It says, are there certain stages which you should go through to deal with loss? How would you respond to that?
Well, they say there's the 5 stages of grief that people go through, right? Uh, that I mean, those that is kind of like a guideline. It doesn't go in a specific order. There were times where I was angry before I was even denying anything. There were times where I was feeling guilty before I was even accepting anything, or sort of feeling acceptance before I was even. So there is no like order to those stages, but the stages are sort of a guideline that kind of gives you a rough idea of this is what to expect. So if you feel angry, it's okay. If you feel guilty, it's okay. I always take that whenever I have any one of those feelings, is to take it one step further and ask myself questions, sort of thought provoking questions to see where do where in my body am I feeling this? Why am I feeling this? What is actually happening while I'm feeling this? What brought this feeling on? Those kind of things. Because I've learned over the years that it is very important to be aware of your feelings. So the stages don't necessarily have to go in a specific order. They just um, are a guideline.
I love that concept that expect these emotions, but we just don't know when, where,
Mhm.
or how they'll pop up. But you will feel some guilt. You will feel all of those things that you discussed, and that's so important to be aware of. And the challenges we can have with that in those things, we enjoy control and order. We
Yes.
just do. And
Mhm.
so we're like, check mark. Well, this happened first. Okay, so this should be the next stage. And when it jumps down here, it's backpedal like, wait a minute. In the book, it's supposed to go by the book. It didn't happen that way. So
Yes.
that can be really challenging. So I know that you share your story about these challenging losses with people. And so, what is a question that many people will usually bring up to you about this? What will they ask you?
I've had a few people ask me, does it does it get better? Is it like, will I be over this in a year's time, or would it feel better? Would it take 3 years, a year, 2 years? How what is the timeline for this? When would this be over, or when would I start being normal again? And whenever I get that question, I think of we've all just lived through the pandemic, and the pandemic basically changed the way we live. There is no such thing as normal. Whatever was. Whatever is now is normal. So, in the same way with grief, the life that I'm going to use myself an example here, the life that I lived with my husband and my late husband and children was a very different life to the life that I'm living now. And by holding on to that life that I used to live, and right now, I actually am holding myself back, and I'm doing myself a great injustice by doing that. So that was a big realization that kind of came to me. And that's where the whole letting go came in as well. It's like It existed. It was beautiful. I loved it. I do anything to have it back. But reality is, I'm not going to get it back. This is where I am right now. Let me put things into perspective and do the best that I can with the very present moment.
I love that. That whole concept really is super important. And I've talked with this at length with another person who helps with grief. Her name is Dr. Mary Welsh, and I think a big part is that we don't want to forget our loved ones.
Mm-hmm.
So because you're right, the past is here. We can't go back to that. But when the memories pop up, we shouldn't suppress them or try to kick them away, right? So when you have memories that pop up, oh, remember the time when, and then you
Mm-hmm.
can fill in the blank. What happens when those pop up for you? What do you do?
So when those type of memories pop up, and it is natural, and this is something else that I kind of came across as well as I've been going through this journey is when those memories come up, you're going to be tearful. You're going to have that. So emotions to me are a way of your body and mind telling you where you are. So if you want to know what's going on in your inner world, those emotions is the way your body and mind communicates with you. So I don't want to ignore them. I want to acknowledge them, but at the same time, I also want to be realistic. And so it's playing that fine, it's a fine line, not to ignore, but to kind of um, what's a good word to use there? To acknowledge, I think would be the right word. To acknowledge the feeling, to acknowledge the memory that has come up. And one good thing that I've learned is to practice gratitude and appreciation. That has helped me a lot. Whenever I have those feelings of, oh, I can't do this and why, or whatever it is, it's I'm grateful. And appreciation can look in so many different. You can be grateful for what you had. You can be grateful for what you have. Example, like I'm grateful that I'm alive. I have hands and legs that work. I am breathing. I am a being of possibilities. I can do anything that I really want to. And then in terms of a loved one, when those memories come up, it's sort of like just being I'm grateful that I had the opportunity to be loved and to be able to love somebody for that many years. Maybe I'm not going to have that person with me, till the day I die, which was the plan, but at least, I'm grateful that I've had that opportunity to get that much. So I'm grateful and I appreciate.
That is great. The gratefulness and the appreciation is something really powerful. We did have somebody on here that's asking about, and I'm going to throw this up there, is about, let's see. Oh, okay. Here we go. Here's a great question. Can a pet help you with the grieving process?
Oh, yes. A pet can help with illnesses too. So here's a nice story for you. While my husband was in hospice with pancreatic cancer, we had got two Shih Tzus, a boy and a girl, little puppies, 8 weeks old. And the kids had got so attached to them. It's unbelievable how pets are just so unconditional in the way they love. I have my little sheep sitting right here next to me. She's sitting right here. She's just stuck to me like glue. It's amazing how she's taken sort of this bondage with me, and she's wherever I move, she goes. But pets can help with healing. They could help with making a person realize, and this is what my pet has done for me, help me realize that unconditional love that I yearn for so much ever since my husband has died. It's, his presence is not there. Those conversations, the things that we used to do, that there's just this big void. So with having Nala, my pet's name is Nala, having her around, she is just so giving and so unconditional in um, how she's just around you. You give her attention, you don't give her attention, she still loves you. There is no condition from her whatsoever, and that is just, that reminds me of, spiritually, and it just brings the whole thing about God and spirituality and all of that to mind. So yeah, I definitely think pets are a great help. They were a great help for the kids. My son, my middle son, while my husband was having, had pancreatic cancer and things, he was 14 at the time, started unexpectedly having seizures. So at the time, my husband has pancreatic cancer, my son's got these seizures. We have no family history of seizures. And the pets were just a blessing. They stayed with him. He stayed with them. He kind of latched onto them so much as well. So definitely, there's something about pets. I can't really put, but there's something to it, to them.
There is it. I love how you said that they don't they don't set an expectation. Like, if you do this, then I will love you this way. They're
Yes.
just like, love,
Yes,
I'm
that's
right
it.
here.
And that is raw, authentic love, as far as I'm concerned.
It is. It is a beautiful thing. And so I think that they're such a part of so many of our lives, and they bring in such a gift of happiness and of curiosity and of silliness. And of course, those times when an accident might happen on the carpet. But
Uh-huh.
anyway, anyway, we still love them and still go forward with it. So I
Yes.
think this is wonderful information to have, to know that through the grieving process, there is a process. There are 5 steps of grief, but the opportunity to know when they pop up and how to deal with it is really important. So in the book, What's Your Story? If you're looking at perspectives and situations and how we interpret those, the idea really pops into place about looking at how our response can happen. I know sometimes when I will, as a teacher, I receive emails from parents that maybe when I first get them, it's very reactionary in maybe their response to something. And I have to stop and remember there's kind of an order that happens. I wish it always happened this way. There's kind of an order that happens in my mind where I think, okay, they were just given news. Obviously, they weren't ready. Maybe their hands were literally in the dishes with everything happening at the same time, and they didn't have time to answer and respond. And so when they did, first thing was anger or being upset. So I just have to remember, I don't know where they were when they received this information. And so before I fire off or fire back, I'm just going to breathe and let it sit, let it
Mhm.
go. I'm just going to let it be right there.
Mhm.
Do some other things and revisit, and then give a response that will really ask questions so I can find out how they are feeling at the moment. And that situational piece really helps to let things go, because we have that empathy, knowing that they're probably doing the best they can in the situation they can with what they know how to do.
Yeah.
Because we're all still learning
Yes.
upon this spectrum of life. Some
Mhm.
are here, some are here. Great wisdom over here. We want to get there. And maybe also within topics, right? You have incredible wisdom within this grief topic, but maybe there's some shallow stuff where you're still working on, I'm still working on, right? So
Yeah.
that makes a great perspective. So I really appreciate you saying that, and the gratitude and appreciation for things within our life, I think really helps our stories. And if we can, you know, maybe put those filters on of being grateful and appreciative, the life really becomes different. Our
Mm.
response responds versus reacts. And I think it helps to slow us down for a minute. And that's not something new. Ashmeeta didn't create that, but she's figured out a way to really put this into perspective that helps her within the situation. So I really appreciate that. I love the concept of what's your story and learning from other people's places like that. I think that's beautiful, Ashmeeta. I love it. So I have another question that somebody asked. I'm going to pop this up here. So this is from Michelle. How is dealing with grief as a child, your kids, different from dealing with grief as adults?
So, is this my child specifically, or is it child and an adult separately? How do they deal with grief?
You can take it from your perspective since you saw your own children deal with grief and yourself. Just kind of maybe how you talk with other people and share that concept.
Okay, so from my own perspective with my kids, at the time when my husband had passed away, and well, even while he was um, ill with pancreatic cancer, the kids at the time were 16, 14, and 6, almost 7. So huge, still quite young. And this is such a difficult topic, a difficult thing to understand and experience. So a lot of times when these kind of things happen with kids, I think what they do is they just kind of go in, they close up, they kind of move away, they find their comfort things. I have 3 kids, and something I noticed with my 3 kids is the oldest had taken to sport. So he moved away from academics and things like that, and he got really, really interested in his cross country and training and track and that kind of stuff. And the middle one, he went to his electronics. So he kept to himself in his room, kept himself alone to himself, didn't want to socialize with anyone or anything of that sort. And the youngest, she was 6. And I think at that age, children are still trying to understand what exactly is going on. Nothing kind of, it's not so permanent for them. So she was, she could, it was just more like whatever she sees is what she's saying. So it's like, okay, daddy's sick. And that was it, not realizing the repercussions of exactly what is going on and what's about to happen sometime soon. We don't know when. And like 3 years down the line now, when I talk to the kids about grief, like, the experience and things like that, my daughter would say to me, Mom, I don't get to spend that much time with dad, so I don't really have that many memories that I can remember, but I do know that I love him and I do know that I miss him. My middle son was very close to my husband. I think they're very similar in personality as well when I look at them. And he took it, I think, out of all of them, I don't even know if I can, if it's right for me to even compare who took it harder, but he did take it hard in the sense that his dad was his go-to person, his person who kept him accountable, and the person that he wanted to always show that he was shining. So that was really, really hard for him. And it's been 3 years now. It's only now that this boy is actually slowly coming out of his shell and wanting to mix with people and talk to people and sort of discuss things and things like that. It took a lot of time and patience. I had to give him space. I had to not be too rigid about, when we are parenting children, we have routines, we have certain things that need to be done a certain way. It's like, and it's for their good, that kind of stuff. But with grief, it was just such a different journey altogether. I had to actually, something I learned in Montessori when I did my infant toddler training, it's basically just to follow the child. And that's exactly what I did with each one of the children. I just observed them where they were and then followed their lead to and offered them what they needed. And then as an adult, grieving is just so, I mean, we have so much as adults to do. We have so much to do. Life is so busy, bills to pay, chores to do, work, run your house, do just about everything. And then to just add grief into the whole picture, it it knocks you off your feet. You just don't you and I think what some, everybody's composition is different. Some people kind of push it in the back burner and just like, okay, it's done, I need to do this, and they just kind of forget about it and keep going on with their life. And then other people kind of let it take over and absorb them, which then becomes a different issue. So I found that dealing with grief, whether you're a child or an adult, a good way to deal with it is to embrace, empower, and then it's inevitable to be evolving, and just embracing the reality of what has happened, and finding ways to empower yourself and each other. And that's going to look different for each person. And as you go through that, it will just automatically turn into an evolution, a new comfort zone that would make make a person feel like, I got this, I can do this. It's not going away. This is my life. I've lost somebody. I spent 23 years with somebody. I invested 23 years of my life with someone, and it's gone. There was nothing I could do about it. But by embracing that truth, I was able to let go and release it, acknowledge it. And when I say embrace, I actually mean acknowledge. Acknowledge that this happened. I feel bad. I'm going to work through those feelings when they come up. But I'm also going to find ways to empower myself. And that's where the whole like journaling, meditation, breathing exercises, awareness, mindfulness, gratitude, acceptance, all those kind of things come into play and help. And also the space. And I think support groups, if finding a real good counselor who is well versed with grief. I remember as my husband was ill, and it was such a trying time. I run blanks now when I think about it. It was just such a stressful time. I was seeing this therapist who was really, really, and I think I got lucky finding her. It is so hard to find somebody who's so well. She kept me grounded through the whole process. She helped me to stay grounded. She helped me to be realistic about my expectations, about his expectations as well. Because I mean, he was 52, and he was just not. He was not ready to die. Really not ready. I mean, who can? I mean, that statement doesn't even make sense. Nobody's ready to die, right? But he just he fought. He fought as and he didn't just fight so he could survive. He fought me as well because he felt that I wasn't doing enough for him to help him survive. But we were both fighting a losing battle, and trying to keep that reality was where the counselor came into play. She helped me to kind of, just keep things real and keep things sort of not to take the blame. It's so easy for a person to take blame for something when they don't understand what's going on. So, and feeling guilty, like, okay, I could have done more. I mean, the guilt came afterwards too. After he passed away as well, I was like, maybe I could have done this. Maybe I could have done that. And in those moments, I'll be saying to myself, okay, maybe, but let me not shit all over myself now. That is not going to help me or anybody. I did the best that I could with the knowledge that I had, the energy that I had, the strength that I had, and the support system that I had.
And I
So,
think that's the best thing that can happen is when we acknowledge where we are and how we can do things at the moment in time. And
Mhm.
so information like this can help better prepare you so you're not caught off guard, because
Mhm.
it is a topic that we don't like to discuss very much, because it is sad and it's hard and it feels like things are out of our control, but it will happen. And so making ideas, plan, preparing for, and no one is ever going to be with a checklist. It's not what
Nope.
I'm saying in the preparation, but really what I'm saying is practicing skills like
Mhm.
forgiveness, like letting things go. That will be very helpful, because when you add the stress of something like that with it, it makes it tough. I want to appreciate everyone out there in the audience tonight. We've had fantastic questions. Our time is running short, so I won't be able to get to everything, but we'll try to answer them following the program tonight. And so I'm so thankful for that. Yes, there is a link to get Ashmeeta's book. Again, her book is called What's Your Stories. I'll pop it up here. And when we close down tonight, I will drop it down in the links below. Also, it is on the blog at www.apriltribejuke.com. And you can reach out to Ashmeeta as well on her website, storyyouTellYourself.com. That's been running on the ticker all evening. You can get her book at Amazon and at other places. So come on over, check it out on What's Your Story. And Ashmeeta, tell us one thing that you would like to say before we close things up for the evening.
I would just like to say that grief is not as scary. Death, I should say, is not as scary as it seems. I think it's the fear of the unknown that kind of holds us tight and makes us feel that we, you know, should hold on to things and not. So there's a lot more. And, if there's anybody out there who wants to talk to me, you're welcome to reach out to me through my website and set up a call or something. I'm happy to talk to you and share whatever I've learned through my journey. I'm learning every day. I don't know it all, but I am learning every day. And I just want to help anyone out there who's going through grief, loss. And it doesn't necessarily have to only be death. I mean, it's divorce, it's miscarriages, it's moving from one country to another country, that there's loss there as well. So just want to share and help make life easier. If there's any tools that I have tried and tested that help me, I can share them, try them out, see if they help you. Life is about learning, sharing, and that is all I'm going to leave behind on this earth anyway. So thank you very much.
Beautifully said. Thank you so much, Ashmeeta. And thank you again to all who jumped in here this evening and shared and asked great questions. We really appreciate it here at the Beacon of Light podcast. Remember to go ahead and like and subscribe on the YouTube channel. You can see us here every evening, every Tuesday evening at 6:30 Mountain Time. So thank you again. And we will really look forward to next week with Dr. Vicky O. Thank you again. We'll talk soon. Grab her book from Amazon. Again, the book is called What's Your Story? And connect with her as you see running in the ticker underneath, storyyouTellYourself.com. Thank you, Ashmeeta. We'll see you, everybody. Bye-bye.